nothing spectacular.
Okay.
Kendrick fans were just glazing him.
Okay, Chad, it's okay. It's okay.
Drake's had enough.
Shut
Good people, what's up, what's good, man? I am blessed to be your host, Caleb Smith. We are back with another edition of Chillin With Caleb. I love y'all, I appreciate y'all, and I promise you guys I was not going to fall off the cliff this year with providing you guys with Chillin With Caleb, so we are back. So much has happened throughout the past week or so, week and a half. I think it's been 2 weeks since the last time that we had a good Chillin With Caleb, but we are bike, in the words of Plies, man. But I hope that all of you guys have been having a blessed week, a blessed February, a blessed Black History Month. We're already about to be in March, man, so it's crazy how time flies. So make sure that you guys are maximizing on every single day that you have out here. Make sure that you guys are always tapped in, becoming better physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. This past year, I've been going to the gym way more, just locking in on that, getting back into the gym heavy, and I love it. So I want for everybody who's tuned in to push yourselves harder. But let's get into business, man. Our boy, Drake. The boy, huh? He's back with another one. Some sexy songs for you. It dropped at midnight. I listened to it right when it dropped. Like what I said, if you guys have listened to our podcasts, our interviews, conversations, I was a major Drake fan growing up. I love Drake. I love what Drake has done for the culture. And I know, of course, Drake can be a culture vulture at times. I get that. And I know Drake has a very complicated history when it comes to our relationship with music, with Drake even. And I think Kendrick, he exposed that and Drake's own discrepancies personally and things and his own shortcomings. But those things can be true. And in that same breath, we can also highlight and salute all the things that Drake has contributed to the culture and to the rap game. A lot of the R&B that we hear today and the sound of these R&B singers, and I hear people who complain about it sometimes, but you wouldn't get that Bryson Tiller type of swag or type of tone if it wasn't for a Drake. We wouldn't have The Weeknd. We wouldn't have Party at the level that Party was if it wasn't for a Drake, even a Tory Lanez, for his musical, not personal, but for his musical contributions. We would not have those things if it wasn't for a Drake. I know Jack Harlow said that Drake, he inspired him in his generation. Me and Jack Harlow are the same age. I remember when Jack was at Georgia State and we were at Georgia State. So I think that Drake has impacted, I would say, my age group the most. And the reason why I say my age group, specifically for the people that I would say is between the age range of 25 to 30, is that we literally grew up listening to Drake. And when I say that, for me, I know that I became a real big Drake fan around like the 6th grade. And I remember when Thank Me Later had come out, it was the summer of me being in the 6th grade, going into the 7th grade, I believe. And I remember going to Target back then, getting the physical hard copy because we were still playing CDs back then, and being able to get that gift from my mom was a really big deal for me because at that time that was my favorite artist, and being able to grow throughout life and those songs, the music, Nothing Was the Same, Take Care, Views, these things become the soundtrack to your life because these meant something while you were playing that in the car, while you were going on your first date, while you were at prom, right? Started from the bottom, like songs like that. So many others, man. It's just, I'm on one, right? Where Drake was that guy. And I remember I was in the car one night and I was playing I'm on one. And I think it was like randomly playing. And just hearing Drake's lyricism and hearing how hungry he was back then, how relatable he was. That's where Drake had his gift. That was Drake's bag, being vulnerable. Vulnerability and seeing that in a rapper of being emotionally intelligent at that time was something that was unprecedented. And that's what made Drake so special. And that's what made people want to tap in and listen to this artist and be captivated and intrigued by this artist. But where Drake's issues lied in was him garnering all that success, him becoming more popular, him becoming those things that he aspired to become. And Tupac's film, I know it was very controversial. A lot of people didn't like it. I didn't really like it. I felt like it was all over the place. But a broke clock can still be right twice a day. In that film, his mother had told him, shout out to Tupac's legendary mother, she had told him, they will give you all the tools necessary to destroy yourself. And I think that implies with Drake's career. once Drake was able to get access to all the women that he always wanted to be with, once he got access to all the athletes that he wanted to be around, all the money that he wanted to have, all the success, admiration, that's what complicated Drake's waters. And I think that sometimes when with any human, I mean, we've even seen it with David in the Bible. Like, that's a story that people don't really look at as success. Like, once David got success, we see him sleep with Bathsheba, right? Another man's wife. And then put that same man who was a loyal soldier on the front lines to be murdered, and then impregnated his wife. So it was like, could King David handle success in that moment? No. So I think that that's what we saw happen with Drake. And then we saw Kendrick come in at the perfect time. And I think that just because you like Drake doesn't mean that you can't like Kendrick. If you like Kendrick, that doesn't mean that you can't rock with Drake. But during this time, what's made everything so polarizing is principles and morals started to come into play. You start seeing things, who's for the culture, who's against the culture. And I think culturally speaking, some Exy Songs for You was a really cool album, but where Drake's problem lied in was the influence for the first time. It's there, it's good, but you have people that Kendrick has culturally dominated this conversation so heavily that we have now reached a public zeitgeist of people feeling like they have to choose sides. And even if some Exy Songs for You is a slapper, if it even is a banger, people feel conflicted because Kendrick just had that iconic Super Bowl performance, the Grammys, and so much more, that this was Kendrick's moment, Kendrick's year, that it makes people feel conflicted even to give Drake his own flowers. Drake is extremely talented. He has the skill sets. He has everything that's needed, but where Drake's problem lies in is that overall true connectivity to his people, to his audience. And that's where people feel a little murky in those waters of, I want to rock with Drake. I used to rock with Drake, but how Drake is moving is kind of making me feel conflicted. But I want for all the people out there to know who's tuned in watching this episode, Chillin With Caleb, to know that you can still like the music. It's okay. I like the music. You could still be, for all the people out there, you still be pro-black, but you can still rock with the music because y'all was rocking with Drake before. That's my only thing that I don't like to see is a lot of y'all were playing Drake before. Yes, he took that L. He lost bad, miserably. Yes, he did some foul stuff moving-wise, but there's other artists out there who's moved foul too. And I think we got to separate the artist from the artistry. But with Kendrick's gift is you can accept the person in the artist, and that's what makes his art so good. But everybody can't be Kendrick, and I think that that's where Kendrick has separated himself. With Drake is doing what Kendrick told him to do, actually, which makes it so funny of getting back to singing and being back to being emotionally vulnerable, right? Because that's where Drake really gets into that bag, and, you know, he can still rap off of that. But where Drake had messed up was trying to be hard. So it's funny how Drake is now going back into that same bag to recover. And this is his first real project coming out after this beef. But some Exy Songs for You getting into the album. I loved the album. I liked it. I don't want to say love. I liked it. It was a lot of bangers on there that I could get with. He had some bangers on there. So far, for my own personal favorite, I love Mothballs. Celibacy is good. Crying in Chanel. Spider-Man, Superman. Pimmy's Dilemma was really, really dope. I love that. Raining in Houston. I know the one track that had everybody talking, where it had people, the complex people, everybody's trying to, tap in. They were talking about Give Me a Hug, I think. On My Way, I love that. Let me actually scroll up further in the album. Die Trying was straight. Nokia, I did not like Nokia. I had to skip that instantly. Give Me a Hug, yeah. Brian Steele was cool as well. Small Town Fame. So, I mean, honestly, y'all, out of the, 21 tracks, I liked around a good range of 10 to 13 solidly. So I would give Drake's album, Drake and Party, a solid 8. I think it was a solid 7.5, solid 8, anywhere in between that range. I didn't feel like it's an instant classic. Her Loss, when I first heard that album sonically, I felt like it was taking us to a whole different stratosphere. You saw it on social media. Everybody was rocking with it. It's Valentine's Day too, so man, shout out to all the brothers out there, all the sisters that's enjoying the love for today's events. But I think that marketing wise, it was genius. It comes right after Kendrick, and then it's on Valentine's Day. Drake, Certified Lover Boy, giving love, into the atmosphere. Party is that dude, man. For me, since we going back to 2013, 2014, Party, he has been that dude, man. And Party has given us cult classics. When we see Party perform at festivals, Party is people are still asking for old Party, like Break from Toronto. People asking for Persian rugs. People asking for Sex on the Beach, and so much more. Like that Party that was in that bag back then was that dude. His past album, it was still solid as well. But I think Drake and Party is such an underrated combo. Such an underrated combo, man. We've had Drake and Party songs on 2K. Come and See Me was on 2K. You talking about a low, laid back type of chill vibe on an NBA video game. That's Drake and Party's influence, that it can feed the ladies, but then also all the fellas can kick back and just vibe with that music. And with Drake, seeing him in this element, when I initially heard this album, I was like, this is the bag. This is the bag that Drake is supposed to be in. This is where Drake finds himself again. And I don't know if Drake ever truly finds himself again. I know that he will have to rediscover what this new Drake looks like. This Drake that's not revered as that guy. This Drake that's not seen as the guy who is number one. Now that's Kendrick. Can he be okay with that? And can he find a way to circumvent that and fight for that number one spot? But I think culturally, man, it's just something that you can't get back right now. I don't think that Drake could ever get back to that true number one spot. But what Drake can do is just try to keep putting out bangers. I know in one of the songs, Drake had made that comment about, I'm too lit right now. Like, I'm not worried about the rap beef and it's time to party, right? And I think that's where Drake, again, that immaturity, I think, has shown itself, because in one breath, I do get that sentiment, but also it's like, Drake, bro, you had your chance. So apparently this beef is still bothering you if you're still talking about it. We already know about the lawsuit, all of that. But you had your chance, bro. And in that chance, Heart Part 6, you didn't deliver. And by you not delivering, this is what happens. And this is where Drake gets pushed back into that R&B bag. Again, I love the album, what it gave. I don't think it's an instant classic, but I think it's a very solid project. Some really good songs on there. It has great marketability. So when we think about radio, I think Drake can still dominate in those fields where we think about radio, everything else. But I just think cultural impact with Drake, it's there, but it's not what it used to be. Like when Drake would drop an album, the girls are posting everywhere. You see people using it in the captions. You see people using it on the reels. You see it everywhere, right? You hear it driving in the streets, people playing it, but that influence has been mitigated. Drake is still influential, but that cultural dominance is not there anymore because he has to share that with the Kendrick. And in the past, Drake didn't have to share that. Kendrick had his movement. Kendrick had his motion. But Kendrick and Drake fans felt like the Kendrick, Drake, J. Cole fans, where everybody was in their own respective corners. But Drake was known as the most popular out of the three. And when I say popular, I mean mainstream, where you see Drake on Saturday Night Live. You see Drake's influence in the NBA. You see the Drake night. You didn't really see Kendrick Lamar night at the LA Lakers or for the Clippers, but you see a Drake night for Toronto. So you see Drake getting push. You see Khaled. He used to walk around. Y'all remember with the marquee board, like what all the bottle girls used to have with saying, I have 2 songs with Drake on my next album. Drake was known as, if I get Drake on my remix, if I'm an upcoming artist, I know what Drake is going to provide for me. I know that Drake is going to make things go through the roof. Like, I'm going to be explosive. But where the problem lies in, he doesn't have that same cultural impact. Because off of public perception, Kendrick made you feel like Drake, he's not that guy who y'all think he is. And that affected him. I think that affected Drake's confidence. That affected Drake's likability right now. That's why Drake is getting upset with UMG, because he's like, Lucian, I was supposed to be the guy, not Kendrick. And Kendrick came in and said, it's mine. It's mine. I got it. I'm the captain now, right? So we're going to get into Kendrick, the Super Bowl performance soon, but we're going to stay on this album for a good little minute because I think that it's a lot to unpack here. I've heard certain people say that Drake's album sounded the same sonically, and I could somewhat get that back because it was good. Don't get me wrong, but it didn't challenge anything new. And what I mean by that is this: Rory, my man Rory, shout out to New Rory and Maul. His first R&B album was really really good that Rory came out with, and he said that something that bothered him about it was he read this really dope feature story about his project, and what the writer had put, it was good. However, it didn't push anything sonically. And Rory said that that really bothered him because he had to realize I'm in this to not just be putting out regular stuff that's deemed as okay. It's not challenging anything. It's kind of status quo. It's good, but it's status quo. He said, I want to push boundaries musically, whether that's with the sound, the instrumentation, the lyricists, like everything. I want to push boundaries. And I think for any true creative, that's what you want to do. And that's what we've seen Kendrick do throughout his career. Kendrick has given us different sounds. To Pimp a Butterfly sounds nothing like GNX. And so many other projects, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers sounds completely different than Damn. So Good Kid, Mad City has his own sonic identity. So it's like that's where Drake's problem lies in. Take Care to me was a classic. Nothing was the same. Chef's Kiss, Views. People appreciate that more now. Honestly, never mind. I love that. That's where Drake was trying different things. And I know that people didn't want to accept it because people wanted hip hop Drake. And where Drake messed up, I feel like Drake doesn't listen to his community. When people wanted hip hop Drake, Drake gave us Honestly Never Mind. And then For All the Dogs comes out, but then he drops bonus tracks where it's all bars, but it's like you should have did it the first time because culture moments is a moment and moments come and go, and you have to seize those moments while they are readily available for you. And I think that that's Drake's problem sometimes, that he could be very tone deaf and that he doesn't listen to his bass. And during that Kendrick battle, that was his moment to do those things. Um, that was his moment to be boom bap. That was his moment to give us those bars. And in that moment, he didn't. And he did with Family Matters, but Heart Part 6, he sounded defeated. And after that, that's where that narrative starts. Like, see, I told you he wasn't boom bap because when it was time to be, he really couldn't do it. But then Drake has given us bars so many times. But then with this, like, it's tough. But seeing that he reverted back to this project, I felt like it was a Scottie Pippen MJ vibe where Drake felt like the star of this project, and then I felt like Party, he was just there to add little tidbits here and there. But I felt like Drake, he was the main focus of this project. I want to see Drake do more collaborative projects. I've always said this. We see Larry June and we see 2 Chainz on their project, Alchemist. I love seeing collaborative projects, especially with like-minded artists and sometimes with unexpected pairings. Like, I would not expect the Drake and 21 album. And the fact that Her Loss was the masterpiece that it was, that's what I like to see. So I think for Drake's comeback, it's just to do a lot of collaborative work with artists that would really sound good with him, because in that way he can cross-pollinate with those audiences. And I know that Drake is the audience. Drake had and still has the audience where the world tunes in, but I think that that helps Drake to get into those bags with certain other artists. But Drake and Party have a dope combo. I love seeing that. That was a really, really good project, really safe pairing. And when I say safe, I don't say that to demean Drake at all. I say that that, for me, made the most sense to do. Drop a Valentine's Day album. You don't have to worry about bars and people asking for the bars. It's kind of on just love and kickback. That's very safe. Opposed to if he came out rapping, they'll be like, but it's not Kendrick, though. So I like that. But I just think that Drake has to get into old Drake. Drake has, like how we talk about old Kanye, this is what Drake has to do. But again, Mothballs was fire. I love Celibacy. He had some really, really good songs on there. I love the vibe of it. It was very laid back. I think that Drake also has to rediscover what R&B Drake looks like, and where do you want to take that? Do you want to have it on a very base level like how this project was, or do you want to take it to a level where you are collabing with a Chris Brown, Kehlani, even a Eric Bellinger, a K-Camp? And I think that's another slept-on combo. I know some of y'all might try to fry me in the comments on this, but I think a Drake and a K-Camp combo would really be hard because I feel like K Camp is one of the most slept on artists that gives you that R&B and that hip hop vibe. And I feel like him and Drake creatively could really bounce off of each other with those ideas, with those concepts. And that's why I say sometimes that I feel like Drake needs to add people on his team who are unbiased. Because sometimes it gets very difficult when people's paychecks are tied to how much you like them. And it gets very tough when I don't want to give too much friction because I don't want for you to feel like I'm a hater. I feel like Drake really has to get a unbiased 3 to 4 people, 3 to 5 people that are around, that's tuned in to what's going on, and just throws out ideas like, hey, this project right here, this will work, that will work. But I think a K Camp and a Drake would be a really slept on combo. And I think that that would make people say, yo, Drake is really out here trying to make something new, make something different. But just stay creative, sonically try to push boundaries. And that's what Drake has to do during the season right now is explore. And if anything that he could take that's a positive out of taking a crazy L against Kendrick is this is my chance just to experiment. Now all the pressure is gone. I'm not viewed as the guy. All the pressure is gone. It's time to experiment and rebuild what I've lost. But all the people I've seen that Drake has fallen out with during this time period, whether it's Braun, this person, that person, has been biblical. It's been crazy seeing how everything has unfolded from this beef. This rap beef has bled into another year, and it's still just as vibrant. We're still talking about the Super Bowl. We're still talking about Drake, but Drake has got to find that new sound. He has to keep collabing with other artists. I don't want to see him collab with younger artists. I hate seeing that because I think with Drake, when Drake works with a Yachty type or with a Playboy Cardi, it makes Drake kind of make himself too young where he can't accept being older now. And he was always known as the boy, as the young kid who's hungry. It's like now he's facing that paradox of I'm not that young dude anymore. So how do I rediscover myself while I'm aging? How do I get better while I'm aging? And I think with Wayne, we kind of saw Wayne go through that same thing where Wayne kind of fizzled out once he started to get older and that young energy wasn't there anymore. And I think Wayne had to learn how to develop into being older gracefully. I think Hove had mastered that gracefully. And I think that that's where mentorship has to come in, where it's like a Drake, and I know him and Hove have had friction, but where Drake needs to get with artists that's still amazing in their 40s and 50s and simply ask, how did you do it? How did you battle with getting older? How did you battle with getting older but still having to remain creative or even more creative because you are getting older? So that's where Drake has to find it. But overall, I love the album. It was a nice R&B kickback. Like what I said, it was a strong like. To say love, I know it has to be like 9 to 10, but it was a very strong like. It was a solid album. Again, the bangers, they were there. Drake still gave you bars. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I love Party, his tidbits as well, because Party is, again, a very slept on artist. He's a great writer. And I think that with Party, I want to see Party come out with more projects because Party creatively has contributed so much to this new wave of R&B. And I know that some people critique these new R&B artists. We still have pure R&B artists. We got neo soul R&B artists in 2025. But in closing, what Drake has to do is rediscover himself, like what we had said earlier, rebuild and figure out where he wants to go creatively and stick with that. I think that the cornrow look and the braids that he's had, he needs to cut that out, back to the fade, and just be on some grown man stuff. But we're about to talk about Kendrick next and the Super Bowl halftime performance show. That was very iconic. I want you guys in the comments, leave me all your reviews and thoughts about Drake's album that just came out. And we're going to talk about Kendrick next. Tap in, stay tuned. Let's get it. All right, y'all. Say Drake. We all saw that iconic Super Bowl performance. If you guys haven't seen our episode with our guy A.R. Shaw, editor-in-chief of the Atlanta Daily World, iconic newspaper here in Atlanta, Georgia, Auburn Avenue. A.R. Shaw, he did a phenomenal breakdown on decoding that Super Bowl halftime performance show. For myself and my own personal perspective, when I'm chilling, watching the game with my friends and family, it was crazy because everybody's looking forward to the halftime show. Everybody's talking about it, whispering about it like, yo, I can't wait for Kendrick to get on stage. It's going to be crazy. Because I think at the time it was already like 24-0 at halftime. Symbolically speaking, this Super Bowl represented so much. Again, we talked about this in the episode with A.R. Shaw, so watch that at the end of this. But if you guys really take a step back and think about this, we had President Donald Trump pulling up. And even before he pulls up, earlier that week, we have reporters asking Pat Mahomes and asking Jalen Hurts about their thoughts about President Trump coming to the Super Bowl. One half, we have Pat Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs, saying that he's excited about playing in front of President Trump and X, Y, and Z. Then we have Jalen Hurts is like, it's whatever. And in that moment, I realized, I'm like, and if you are a Trump supporter, rock out, do what you do. But I'm saying as a collective, as a people, I'm like, yeah, Jalen Hurts gets it. He's more of the culture. And I know Patty, he's biracial, and I know he has a black father. Patty is a black quarterback. But Jalen is black. And when I say black, think about how Jalen has a black woman as his agent and representation. You see Jalen has a black woman on his arm as his fiance. You don't see that with Pat Mahomes. You see Pat Mahomes' very white wife. You see Pat Mahomes with the white wife that is very pro-Trump. It's a lot of things that are tone deaf. You see that his mom has made some very tone deaf comments in the past. So it's like, yeah, technically Pat is black, but you don't get that black vibe from Pat Mahomes. But Jalen Hurts looks like that young brother that you grew up with, right? Jalen carries himself as a black man. You can tell that he knows that the culture is watching him, that the culture looks up to him, depends on him. And he's coming through. Even with the small things like a Team Jordan sponsorship, how Jalen rocks the Jordan brand with the Jordan brand commercials. And I know Jordan is owned by Nike. That's a white conglomerate. But I'm just saying off of the vibe and feeling black, the same way that kids who were growing up in the 90s, late 80s, like y'all were rocking the Jordans when they were out. And it was a moment. It was a vibe. That's what I feel like with Jalen. And the level of disrespect, before we even get into Kendrick's Super Bowl performance, the level of disrespect that was dished to Jalen Hurts throughout the year, and we're going to get to the week of the Super Bowl, but throughout the year of not being even mentioned as a top 10 quarterback, but he played in a Super Bowl. For me, as a sports fan, if you've played in a Super Bowl and if you've been fairly consistent throughout your career of making it to the playoffs and you've been in the Super Bowl and now it's your second time on top of that in a 3-year span, I got to have you as a top 10 quarterback, if not top 5, because you're making it to the championship game. There's no way, I don't care what anybody says, you call it the game manager, any of that. You still got to take care of the ball. Every game comes down to a set of throws, right, in the NFL as a quarterback. You don't make it to the playoffs, NFC championship games, Super Bowls off of happenstance. It comes down to quarterback play. You can't hide your quarterback in today's modern NFL. So when I hear people say that Justin Herbert, even a Josh Allen, people talk about DEI. He got a DEI MVP, right? But even Lamar, I love Lamar. But when the moment counts, Jalen Hurts, he delivers. And he beat Patty. Active quarterbacks to have beat Patty in the postseason is only 2. It's Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts. Joe Burrow has played in the Super Bowl, so I got to tip my hat to him. I feel like Joe is a top 5 quarterback. But Jalen won one. See, Joe beat Patty, but then loses in the Super Bowl to Matt Stafford. Jalen beat Jaden Daniels, goes to the Super Bowl, plays Pat Mahomes a second time, beats him. And each time that he's played Patty, it's come down to the wire. I think the first time that they played Patty back in Phoenix, he was up by 10. So got to salute the brother. I'm so happy for him. Philly, besides Atlanta, home team, homegrown, love Atlanta. I feel like Philly is that next blackest spot, especially for sports. Like when I look at the Eagles, got a black quarterback again. We go back to Randall Cunningham. We go to Rodney Peete. We go to Donovan McNabb. Then you go to Vic from Atlanta to Philly, where Vic was balling out. Now we got Jalen Hurts. So it's just the home of iconic black quarterbacks. I love seeing them win one for the city. Love seeing Gilly and Wallow get one for the city. All the people who I know that's from Philly. So, man, I salute y'all. I'm extremely happy for y'all. But Jalen Hurts, y'all, if you guys haven't noticed on Tubi, on the cover, and I get it, Saquon was the league's leading rusher, but Jalen Hurts, his picture wasn't even on the cover where they had all the promo for Tubi, for Fox, for the Super Bowl. They had Saquon and Pat Mahomes. Typically, they do both quarterbacks of both teams. So the level of disrespect was already showing. Donald Trump rescinding his invitation to the Eagles. We already knew that was going to happen. And him rooting for the Chiefs. Taylor Swift had all the Swifties. So this felt like America's team. And I felt like Philly was Black America's team. You could see Black America, foundational Black America's blood and vibe being entrenched in everything that we saw throughout that Super Bowl. At the very beginning, where you see Southern University's iconic band, then you see Master P, you see everything with the vibe, with the culture, with the Mardi Gras looks, everything. Then you see Lift Every Voice and Sing, right? Hey, we getting black. Jean Baptiste, I think. Jean Baptiste, the brother's name. If I butchered it, deep apologies. But, man, he did a phenomenal rendition of the national anthem. And the reason why I use that word rendition, because at the end, how he put a little black flavor on there. He killed that. Everything was just a beautiful vibe of blackness. Then in the first half, we see the black quarterback going crazy, who was doubted. This is like Black America's story, who was doubted, who was seen as, oh, he's not that guy. He's not a real starter. He's a game manager. He's out-dueling Pat Mahomes right now. First half, I think the score is already 24-0. So we already saw that beat down. The Chiefs, they're distraught. White America, they're distraught, right? Then it's time for the Super Bowl halftime performance show by none other than Kendrick Lamar. I tell people what's so funny, me and AR, we was just talking about this on the show, that I feel like not AR, but Pat Mahomes, I feel like Pat Mahomes represented Drake, right? And then I feel like Kendrick represents Jalen Hurts in this moment of the Super Bowl. I felt like Patty represented the light-skinned vibe, the more welcoming, the more appeasing to white America in mainstream society. That was Drake, where it felt like he had everything behind him. He has the league behind him. He's the face. And I felt like Kendrick was the one who was doubted. He was the one that was blackety black. He was the one that wasn't seen as having the same superpowers or the same capabilities as a Drake, right? Where people knew that Drake is known for the hits. Pat Mahomes is known for throwing the touchdowns, getting the yardage, being clutch. But Jalen comes in and snatches that. And not only snatches it, does it violently in a way where it's a beat down, where there's no debate. And that's what happened between Kendrick and Drake during their beat. There was no debate. Kendrick was like, I'm tired of being slept on. Jalen Hurts was tired of being slept on. And when that moment came, it drove him. It was one clip in particular where Jalen Hurts and his teammates, they were talking, and one of his O-linemen said, bro, you know it's okay to smile. And he said, I can't, because that pain from the first one, that pain is what drove him. And I felt like Kendrick was driven by pain because he was often overlooked, and not massively overlooked. Everybody knew Kendrick and Drake. Like, we knew that that was our top two, top three, but Kendrick was like, no, like, I'm nicer than him. Like, let me show you. And I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts is better than Pat Mahomes. We know Pat Mahomes is the greatest quarterback of our generation right now. But Jalen, he demands a lot of respect, and he deserves to be in that room. And who's to say Jalen, I mean, the team that's currently constructed with Saquon, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, that young defense, who's to say that they won't be back, that they don't win more, that they don't get more? Who's to say that they don't create their own dynasty? So this is going to be very interesting to see unfold. But Jalen Hurts, I salute him, and it's 24-0. We're watching the game. We see Rob Gronkowski talking. We see Jimmy Johnson, the whole Fox 5 crew. Then behind them, you see that GNX car getting set up. It's looking like a vibe. It's like, okay. Then you see Kendrick in the blue jacket, like, all right, he about to be on one. It's about to happen. We see Kendrick, and we're like, okay, it's that time. And seeing Kendrick, I'm like, this is really about to be lit. So commercials happen. After that, it's time for the show. Then we see Samuel L. Jackson, Uncle Sam, open it up. The Great American Game. Seeing that opening, I'm like, all right, Kendrick is, again, trying to give us a message. Because I knew Kendrick would give us a message during the Super Bowl on the world's biggest stage. And this is what we have to love about Kendrick, that especially as a Black American artist, Kendrick seizes the moment to tell Black America's story. Knowing that our people built this country and we're often overlooked for it. Our people built a lot of the forms of civilization that we see, whether that's inventions, whether that's the laws, whether that is the art, just public decency within itself, the overall morality of this country. We're talking about a group of people. The first American who died during the Revolutionary War, Crispus Attucks, was a Black man. So even the term patriot or patriotism comes from us. We are the true patriots. There's no other group of people that you could think of within this social experiment called America who would be beaten, killed, enslaved, mutilated, forced to breed, breeding farms, butt broken, who still willingly fights for your wars, saves your wars, to come back home, to still be told that this isn't your land and that this isn't your country. Because that other group of people, if you tell them that they raid on January 6th, forever ruin my birthday. But Kendrick, seeing that brother go out there, seeing him do his thing, and the Great American Game, he gets one of the most iconic actors, iconic black actors from Atlanta, in Atlanta. I went to Morehouse. But seeing what Samuel Jackson did with the Great American Game, starting it off as Uncle Sam. Then I think about Samuel's character on Django, and I think it was Steven, who was the Uncle Tom, right? Uncle Steven, right? Think about Uncle Ruckus. And that was a beautiful play on words with having the black man play as Uncle Sam. I think that that could represent multiple things of the coon, the Uncle Tom, but also of black America's entrenchment in what we know today as America. Uncle Sam is viewed as, you remember those posters of, I want you to fight or join the army of, okay, but Uncle Sam is black because this is our land as well. But I think at that moment, Uncle Sam was used as a piece of white adjacency, telling Kendrick how to play the game. He's too loud, he's too ghetto, he's too black. They want something calm. That's why when he played All the Stars with SZA, just right, nice and calm, how they like it. I love seeing the overall disparity between what white America consumed while watching that performance and what black America saw. Black America saw a unfolding of our experience, and white America was jaw-dropped and confused. A.R. Shaw, he dropped a gem in our previous episode of saying this was a Negro spiritual, where they view it as just song and dance, but it's really a message within the song and dance of revolution, of fighting back, resistance. And that's what Kendrick did on that stage. One bar that I'm glad that I saw that people unpack well was when we had, I think it was the red, white, and the blue, and it was forming the flag. But then each person had their hands on each other's backs to show that we built this flag, we built this country. Forgive me at the moment, but I highly encourage everybody to look this up. A black woman created the American flag. I know people get the stories about Betsy Ross and all these other things, but look up who that black woman was. That's you guys' homework assignment. How about that? But our story is everywhere. When you drive down the street, think about Garrett Morgan, like the street lights, all these things, so many inventions, the toilet, the doorknob. Like we've done so many things, it's innumerable. And I want for us to have that pride in knowing that. Throughout Kendrick's performance, the Duck One Life, AR, he spoke about that. The moment that Kendrick was getting too rowdy, too revolutionary, too loud, the Duck One Life. Cultural cheat code with his homeboys joining him, having that power. More specifically, the ancestors joining him when he had everybody, all the dead homies and all white joining him. Samuel Jackson said, cultural cheat code, the Duck One Life. We think about Malcolm, we think about Martin, cultural cheat code. Fred Hampton, cultural cheat code. We think about so many other influential figures and people and features who were taken out because of their cultural impact on who we are and what we do and our impact for the people. So Kendrick did what he was supposed to do. He understood what had to be done. He gave back to the people. He gave us information. He gave us one hell of a performance. We have Serena Crip walking. Then everybody's like, oh, this is crazy. From Compton as well. She's in the all blue. I know Stephen A. Smith had his own comments like, that was my wife. And of course, that's Drake's ex. So that was even more iconic. And I was like, dang, but that is that cultural connection. And that's what I was saying about Drake earlier. Drake lacks that cultural connectivity because Drake is from Toronto. Toronto has its own vibe, beautiful place. But Kendrick, being a black American in black America, there's more of a connection where him and a Serena are from the same neighborhood, cultural connection. DeMar DeRozan, cultural connection. Where Drake is expecting people to side with him, it's kind of hard to when we got more in common. I'm a ride on this side. And that's what got Drake messed up. And that's what made people feel so excited about this performance because you knew that Kendrick was going to speak to our people. I wish that Kendrick did perform all right. I felt like as a closing that would have spoke to today's times. But seeing him perform that in front of the president of the United States in a black city like New Orleans, the artist that was chosen was perfect. I know people were talking about Wayne and somebody from the city, but the times that we're going through right now, our art has to reflect that. It is needed that we have something poignant that speaks to the people and that sparks conversation. And that's what Kendrick's performance has done. It has sparked conversation. It has made people think. And that is what art is supposed to do. It is supposed to push out or challenge our thoughts that we currently have. And also, what I love about it is with music, with paintings, and so many other things that film, it makes you dig deep within yourself and challenge what you believe in your own preconceived notions. And also challenges what does a brighter future look like and what role and what part do we play in that. So it was a beautiful thing to make America look at its own little dirty secret, which is Black America. Because Black America, every single time that we're around and that we're still standing, we are a constant reminder of their failure to exterminate us. And every time that we're still around and still breathing and still existing, we are a threat. Our existence within itself is the biggest threat to white supremacy. That's why we've seen so many efforts towards DEI. And I know DEI has been controlled, manipulated to benefit every other quote unquote minority group except for us. But it is the overall political arena and playing with it to show that we're trying to erase blackness as well. With Martin Luther King, seeing how they have disparaged his legacy. We've seen critical race theory, abortion, how they're taking those things away to increase the white birth rate. We see all these plays that's happening. And this Super Bowl was a reminder of Black America is not going anywhere and our impact will forever be felt. And that's what I love and salute about our dear brother Kendrick, is that he seizes the moment. And that's what I said about Drake, where Drake fell short. As an artist, there will come a time to where you have to stand for something politically, that you will have to stand for something culturally. And that's what Kendrick has stepped into. Kendrick has stepped into his greatness of knowing as an artist where he should stand and why he's standing up for said issue. And that's where that love and that admiration for Kendrick, for me, has grown, and for so many others. For me, as a person, individually, once I heard Damn, I was in college, and I think it might have been 2017. I was either a sophomore or junior in college, but hearing that project, man, I was captivated. Even in that line where he said, I think it was on Duckworth, where he was like, I'm not black no more, I'm an Israelite. Hearing that statement, I was like, okay, Kendrick is really tapped into where he's reading the Bible and he's on YouTube. He's looking up these debates, or he's watching the Sinetters, or he's watching IUIC. Like, he's watching the same stuff that we're into. And for me, in that moment, I was like, okay, he's tapped in. And I love that album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. I love that. GNX, more recently, I love that. And my appreciation for Kendrick as an artist started to maturate and bud over time even more. And that's why when this beef happened, I was not surprised that Kendrick won. And I was honestly happy for him, because I felt like he was brewing for this moment. And seeing what he did in the Super Bowl was the overall culmination after the Grammys, after GNX's massive success, Not Like Us. That's where it was. And that was his Super Bowl, as big as the Super Bowl, right? Figuratively and literally. I know even Drake said in one song on the album where they're not like us, or I'm not like them, I guess, or something like that. And I'm like, dang, that one's still bothering Drake, but it's starting a process for Drake about that cultural connectivity, right? But Kendrick, man, again, the pure artistry to where you are not going to catch it the first time. You're going to have to watch it back a few more times to catch it. I feel like Beyonce did that at her halftime performance back in December at the Texans game. So I love seeing this, where it's causing us to think. It's causing us to go back. All the people, especially my black people, who said it's mid, you are entitled to your own opinion. But I feel like Kendrick, he's the type of artist, and it's always been that way, even in his music, to where if you're tapped in, if you know, you know. And I think that he wants it that way. If you know, you know. Because for myself, my camp watching it, it was a intellectual sparring match, intellectual exhibition. It was like an art gallery of the Black experience. Of, I'm going to walk y'all through and show you Black America's experience. We're going to start with the creation of the flag. We're going to go through, I'm going to show you my side with the Dead Homies, with Compton. I'm going to show you the video game controller with the X, like the PlayStation. I'm going to show you the Great American Game. And honestly, I think that his statement was Black America is the main character, and that we figured out how to break the game. That's why it was game over. And now talking about it out loud, Not Like Us was Kendrick's emancipation. He's going through the maze of the game. Samuel's telling him what to do. Don't do this, don't do that. And slowly he's revolutionizing. He's getting more radical throughout the performance. Got the homies with him. That was the cheat code in the game. Togetherness. The ancestors in with the people that we have amongst us right now, with our people. He teases not like us. He talks to the black women about it. Should I do it? Not like, they like to sue. And then at the end, he's like, F it, I'm going to do it. And that right there shows I know my power. Regardless of what they say, to duck one life, what's going to happen to me, all these other things, I'm going to do it. I'd rather live like a man than be deleted as a coward. Yeah. And seeing that, I'm like, okay, that was fire. That was that operation of learning, self-discovery, and then at the end, voicing, using your voice, and ending it on a high note and reminding that they're not like us. They're not like us. So, Kendrick, I salute you, brother. That was one hell of a performance. I still have to go back multiple times to still catch certain things. The brother on the street light laying on it. That's the dead homies, right? Watching over. So of just seeing so many things, man, this so much unfolded. It was a beautiful experience. And I think that is the main key word. Kendrick made it an experience. That's what I loved about it. It was a full process of gaining information and vibing. So shout out to our good brother, Kendrick Lamar. K-Dot, man, of knowing that this brother came from having a speech impediment, seeing his 7th grade teacher had poured into him, gave him a thesaurus, and they went over the books and they read the words and they learned, and he pushed him intellectually. He challenged him as a man to grow and to be the best version of himself. And that's why Kendrick till this day has a great relationship with that teacher, and he takes him on tour. But that's what I mean about cultural connectivity. He has a story. He comes from somewhere. And that's what I love to see. So shout out to K-Dot, man. But this was a great performance, iconic. I feel like it was one of the greatest of all time because it was so black. It was the moment. It was the time. Like what I said, it was the moment. That's what makes art art. It's the moment. So it was fire, and he seized the pun. So all the creatives out there, all the black people, even if you're a regular person every day going to your job, I'm not saying be over there at the front line. No, but find your lane. Be who you are. Even if that's going on your lunch break. Tapping into lectures or great conversations such as these. Find your own way to fight, resist, but find your voice. I think that that's the biggest thing that Kendrick wanted for us to see in this performance is to find our voice. So I challenge all of us to find our voices, enjoy the project, and have something meaningful, have substance in our art. That's what so many people have complained about. Oh, the art, there's no substance in it, especially in rap. In hip-hop, there's no substance. Kendrick, he gave us that, and I feel like he will continuously give us that. He's far from done. I see Kendrick becoming our Jay-Z, where he's going to be giving you bars pushing close to 55, 60, man. So much love to the family. Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of Chillin With Caleb. I hope that you guys enjoyed the breakdown. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you guys want me to answer any questions that you guys asked or that you guys may have, drop those in the comments. But I truly love y'all. I appreciate y'all. We have more fire interviews on the way. Make sure to tap in. Watch the one with Pastor Christian A. Smith where we talk about race and religion. Also A.R. Shaw, our good brother, where he decodes Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show performance. So thank you guys so much. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this content, y'all. We being consistent with Chilling With Caleb, y'all. I promise you guys, y'all show love, so it's my job to show y'all love back. Thank you. I love y'all. Blessed be your host, Caleb Smith. Another episode of Chilling With Caleb in the books. Until next time, peace.